Alright, hello and welcome right back to our Flight Sim Fan video. Today we're in the CRJ-900 and we're flying into Pearson 33 right. Looks like the wind is from the left here at about 16 knots or so. And yeah, basically be a very basic landing tutorial. I'm actually already established. Autopilot's on, localizer glide slope is captured. We're flap 45, gear down, clear to land with the land light on. And we're pretty much ready to go. So this is going to be a basic landing tutorial for the CRJ. The CRJ is quite an interesting airplane. You can see that on the glide slope, we're about a degree, we're either level or usually we're level to 1 to 2 degrees nose up actually on our glide slope, in real life at least. And it's a bit interesting to see outside the window when you're nose up and you're going down at the correct rate. So it's a bit of a weird approach. The other thing about the CRJ is if you over flare it, it will like to float. It floats very far, therefore easy to pass the touchdown zone. And lastly, another thing, because of that weird nose-up attitude on the approach in real life at least, it leads to a lot of firm landings in the RJ. It's kind of a weird one to get right. There's an interesting technique. So I'll show you the technique I use in real life on the CRJ-900 that's been working for me at least so far. And hopefully it works for you in the sim as well. And so I'm going to let the autopilot take this from right here. We're going to bug 136 knots for our speed. I'll bring the power back manually. Landing checklist is complete. We're clear to land. So basically what's going to happen is, let's look at the autopilot. Let's look how this is flying. Obviously I'm doing the throttle part, the thrust part. You can see that we're on the glide slope and we're on the localizer. And our power is pretty much holding 65% N1 roughly to hold that speed in our bucket there. So there's not much we have to do. Once we take control, there's not much I have to do. Let's go ahead and take manual control. Autopilot off. And because that flight director is giving me wrong information, I'll even turn the flight director off. And we'll just use visual cues. Happy's on the left. And I'm going to pause right here. I don't like flying out of a pause, but I'm going to have to do it. So at this part right here, about 300 feet or so, I'm doing a outside and inside scan on a visual day like this. Outside wise, I'm focusing my aim point as this touchdown marker. These 1,000-foot markers, I should say. On a runway, we have the threshold. This is the piano bars there. The number of the runway, 33 right. And then these piano bar section right here. This is all the touchdown zone. If that's the first, we want to land in that touchdown zone or the first 3,000 feet. If your runway is under 9,000. So today we want to land somewhere in here, but generally at the 1,000-foot or just past. So we do not want to land. We don't want to touch down past that point. If we're looking like we're touching down past that point, we execute a go-around in that case. So what I'm focusing on is 3 things here at this phase: lineup, airspeed, and glide slope. So there's a couple things we can do. One, visually you can see our lineup. I'm a little bit lined up left. You can also back that up with the localizer, which is actually I'm directly on, but visually I can see I'm a little bit to the left, and I can show you I'm pretty close, right? Just a tiny bit. Airspeed, pretty much dialed in there, 136, right on the money. Pretty close. We like to be on the bucket, in the bucket, and slightly quick if you want. We don't like to be slow, really. And then glide slope wise, slightly low, but that's easy to correct. And we're visual at the runway. It's not like we're in an IMC condition. So line up, airspeed, glide slope. You can even draw a line left to right. If you had the flight director for localizer, you can draw lines like this. In this case, I have to kind of do a bit of a U. But since I'm visual, my little trick is I got the airspeed, I have the glide slope for reference if I'm high or low, and then I have my vertical speed indicator. The vertical speed indicator is a little bit of a neat trick you can do. Is we're currently ground speeding 114 knots. I don't actually think that's correct. Apparently 114 knots, but if you would take 114 knots, so 114 divided by 2, okay, get 57 plus 0, you get 570 feet per minute. Well, currently we're doing 600 feet per minute. So that's a good way to judge how much feet per minute should roughly keep you on the slope. Again, these are, once you're visual, it's very just rough. I have the flight directors off, but I do have my glide slope and localizer for reference down there as well. So I know that between 6 to 800 feet per minute, or sorry, 6 to 700 feet per minute is roughly where I'm going to live for my vertical speed, and I can correct that. Right now I'm a little low, and so all I have to do, at least PAPI-wise, would ever so slightly arrest my descent a little bit, maybe to 500 feet a minute, just a very little touch for a couple seconds, and then it will go right back down to 6 to 7 area. So that's my little trick. You can expect what vertical speed you're going to need, and you get better at it as you do with time. But for right now, I'm focused on my lineup, my airspeed, my glide slope, and my eyes are focused at this 1,000-foot marker, that thick part right there, those two thick bars. And that's what I'm focusing on. Alright, so let's come out of this pause here, and we're going to be trying to aim for about 600 feet per minute, holding a rest speed of about 136. And I'm focusing on those 1,000-foot markers, I'm slightly high.
100.
Okay, 100. I'm going to check the nose. I'm going to put the nose up just a little bit. 50 feet, bring the power back, and idle.
20.
Look all the way down the runway. I'm going to pause right here for a second. I know I'm floating, but I'm going to pause. At this point, I know I'm a little tilted as well, I had to reach for my mouse. At this point, obviously our 1,000-footers are way over there. And what we're doing is we're looking all the way down the runway. I actually like to pick that point right at the distance, but whatever works for you. Anywhere that's in the distance, not elevated, at the end with the same level here. And what that does is that starts to build your peripheral vision as the ground gets bigger in your window. For example, if I can show it in a screen, won't really work without the actual visual of it, but as you get closer to the runway, that runway fills up more view, and you're going to start pitching up and up and up and up to compensate. And that's what the flare is. If you have hard landings, that's because you're not looking in the right place. If you're looking here, you're going to slam here. You got to look all the way down to the end of the runway and add your backstick, add your nose up pressure, right? Let's go ahead and see if I can recover this from a pause. The other thing is, you can see my nose is tilted to the left, around 10 feet or so, which is pretty much right now. I'm going to start feeding right rudder nice and smoothly. And if I need it, I'll need right rudder and a little bit, tiny bit of left aileron in this case. I should say left yoke. Let's go ahead and pause. So we're going to go with the rudder.
10.
There's the touch. In the touchdown zone, you'd add reverse. Fly the nose down. I'm holding back pressure on the nose. And start applying wheel braking. Now my reverse does not work in my sim, so bear with me, but you'd have idle reverse at this point. And ground spoiler deployed as well, as you can see on the wings there. And we'd exit here. Captain would most likely say, my control, you'd take it over, and I'd get into my cleanup. So that's a little look at a landing. Again, if you're landing a CRJ, if you're landing a 777, you're landing a 172, they're all the same. Lineup, airspeed, glide slope. Once you're just before your aiming point, just before you get to that 1,000-footers, over it, I should say, when you're flying over them, just before you're flying over them, you start transitioning your eyes. Instead of looking down here, you start looking all the way down the runway. So I'll visually show it one more time, because this is the most important part about landing, is where you're looking. So yeah, my scenery's kind of glitching out a little bit, but let's just pretend this is your aiming point. And once you're about, let's say this third line here is your aiming point in my example. Once you're about to fly over your aiming point, in this case we are about to fly over it, you start transitioning your eyes down to the end, and that starts to build in your flare when you're looking all the way down there. And I'm constantly adding back pressure, back pressure, back pressure. It's kind of a constant, so I kind of went like this. I went with the, we're still paused. I went with the right rudder, back stick like this, and tiny bit of aileron. In that case, I had to bring those to the right. So practice those landings. The highest stress thing is, if you do nothing else other than this video says, is just look down the runway at your flares, and that really helps you judge how much pullback you need. I see a lot of people flaring really early, too late, too much. It's all about where you're looking, and that'll fix the flare for you. Okay, so hope you guys enjoyed this on the RJ, and we'll see you guys next time.